Tower dig uncovers ancient secret. Archaeologists unearth possible Black Death victims in first Tower of London in over 30 years. A major archaeological excavation near the Tower of London's White Tower has uncovered remains of more than 20 individuals, including some who may have died during devastating Black Death pandemic of the 14th century. This makes the first significant dig at the tower in over 3 decades and sheds new light on the history and the people connected to this iconic site. Let's get into the thick of it in today's AI podcast episode.
It's really amazing how even the most familiar places, those landmarks we think we know inside out, can still hold these, well, profound secrets just under our feet.
Absolutely. History literally buried.
Exactly. And somewhere like the Tower of London. I mean, it's so steeped in British history, you'd think every inch has been studied.
You would, wouldn't you? But a recent, really groundbreaking archaeological dig there has just proved that wrong. Some astonishing new insights have come to light.
And that's really what we want to dive into today. We're going to unpack the surprising discoveries from this excavation. We're not just talking about hidden walls or foundations, but the actual human stories.
The people who lived and died and were buried there centuries ago.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll explore what they found, what it tells us about, say, medieval London, and how this cutting-edge science is bringing these old mysteries back to life with incredible detail.
It's a really remarkable project. This was actually the first major excavation inside the tower walls in, over 30 years?
30 years, wow.
Yeah. And it started for a very practical reason, interestingly enough. They needed to install a new lift.
A lift?
Yeah, for visitors at the Chapel Royal of St. Peter ad Vincula, just to, improve accessibility.
Okay. And the Chapel Royal itself, I mean, even before this dig, it's hugely significant.
Absolutely. It's famously the resting place for some major historical figures. You've got Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard, or Thomas More.
Right. People connected to really dramatic moments in history.
Exactly. But it was during this groundwork for the lift near the White Tower, the really old 11th century part, that archaeologists made an initial and, pretty significant discovery.
Okay, so what was that first find?
Human remains.
Right.
And that, understandably, led to a much bigger, more extensive excavation. And the main discovery, the one that's caught a lot of attention, is finding over 20 individual skeletons.
20. Wow. And what's really compelling, I gather, isn't just the number, but the when.
Precisely. Many of these are believed to date from the 14th century.
Which puts them right in the middle of
the Black Death. Yeah. That devastating plague that swept through England between, 1348 and 1350, killed maybe half the population.
Just unimaginable. And the way they were found, does that tell us anything?
It does seem to. The grouping, the way the remains were positioned, it strongly suggests a mass grave.
Which would fit with the plague period.
Exactly. It became, tragically, a common practice back then. The usual burial systems, the churchyards, they were just completely overwhelmed.
So scientifically, what's the next step there?
Well, the really exciting part is the DNA analysis. It's underway right now. They're looking for traces of the actual plague bacterium, Yersinia pestis.
So they could confirm if these individuals did die from the Black Death.
Potentially, yes. It offers this incredibly rare chance to study the pandemic directly, its impact on a specific group right there at the tower.
Okay, so a potential direct link to the Black Death. But that wasn't all they found, was it? There was something else, something earlier.
That's right. Sort of alongside these potential plague victims, archaeologists found something really unexpected: 3 other skeletons.
Okay.
But these dated from the late 12th or early 13th century. So well before the Black Death ever reached England.
And were these buried differently?
They were, and that's what's fascinating. These earlier individuals, they were buried in coffins.
Which wasn't the norm back then.
Not at all, really, especially not for, ordinary folk. It was pretty uncommon outside of royal burials or maybe very high-status clergy. So it strongly suggests these people held a higher social standing.
Maybe people connected to the tower hierarchy itself.
Possibly. Yeah, it sets them apart from just, common burials in a parish churchyard.
And speaking of rare finds,
yeah,
there was something else with one of these early burials, something about fabric.
Yes, a textile fragment from a burial shroud.
How often does fabric survive for, 800 years underground?
It's genuinely extraordinary. Textiles usually just don't last. The soil conditions have to be just right. But perhaps even more intriguing, they found 2 medieval pots filled with charcoal buried alongside one of these individuals.
Pots with charcoal. What would that mean?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
These are exceptionally rare examples of grave goods, objects deliberately placed with the dead for this period, the 12th or early 13th century. It's not something you see often in Christian burials then.
So it hints at maybe different burial rites or something specific to that person.
It could be a tantalizing glimpse into, ancient rites or maybe specific beliefs or practices that we just don't usually get physical evidence for. Really fascinating.
And it wasn't just about the people buried there. The dig also told us more about the chapel building itself.
It did, yeah. The Chapel Royal we see today, that was built between 1519 and 1520.
Right.
But it replaced an earlier version, and the archaeologists found clear evidence of a fire that seems to have destroyed the previous building.
Ah.
And they also found the actual foundations of that earlier 13th century structure, which likely dates back to the reign of King Edward I.
So you can almost see the layers of history, the destruction and rebuilding.
Exactly, like a physical timeline right there in the ground. Shows the evolution of the site.
Do we know anything about the fire? Was it like during a siege or...
The initial thinking is that it was probably accidental. Medieval buildings, lots of wood. Fire was a constant hazard. Doesn't seem linked to a specific conflict, more like a catastrophic accident that led to the rebuilding.
This whole thing, this dig, it's actually the result of a much longer project, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's really the culmination of about 6 years of work. It started with a smaller trial excavation back in 2019.
Okay.
That's when they found just 2 skeletons, but they were just outside the chapel walls. And that discovery basically paved the way for this much larger investigation that happened in 2025.
So quite a buildup. What kind of team does something like this take?
Oh, a huge effort. It was conducted by a specialist firm, Pre-Construct Archaeology, but with really close oversight from the curators at historic royal palaces.
Right, the people who look after the tower.
Exactly. And Alfred Hawkins, he's the curator of historic buildings there, he described it perfectly. He called it a generational opportunity to really deepen our understanding of the site.
A generational opportunity. I like that.
And a big part of that is the modern science they can now apply. These remains, they're undergoing all sorts of ongoing biomolecular studies.
Which means?
Analyzing ancient molecules, basically. Proteins, DNA fragments, things that can tell us about diet, disease, maybe even relationships between individuals.
And that includes things like isotope analysis. I read Dr. Katie Fillais from Cardiff University is leading that.
Yeah.
How does that work? Taking a tiny bit of tooth and finding out so much.
It's amazing stuff, isn't it? Isotope analysis looks at the chemical signatures, different forms or isotopes of elements like oxygen, strontium, carbon that get absorbed into our bodies from our food and water.
Okay.
And these signatures vary depending on the local geology and environment. So a tooth is perfect because it forms when you're a child and doesn't change much after that.
Ah, I see.
So by analyzing the isotopes in a tooth fragment, scientists can potentially reconstruct what someone ate, maybe get clues about their health, and even figure out the geographical region where they grew up.
So you can tell if someone buried at the tower actually grew up somewhere else entirely.
Potentially, yes. It's why Dr. Fillais says it allows them to, and I quote, reconstruct the life stories of those buried at the tower with unprecedented detail. It really brings individuals out of the anonymity of history.
It really does. This whole project, though, it must highlight that tricky balance, right? You've got the need for modern upgrades, like the lift for accessibility.
Yeah, which is important.
Absolutely. But then you have this incredibly sensitive historical site where you can't just dig anywhere.
It's a huge challenge. Dr. Jane Seidel, she's the principal inspector of ancient monuments at Historic England, really emphasized that. It takes meticulous planning, constant adaptation on site, because, every scoop of earth at the tower could potentially reveal something vital. But the good news is they managed it. They made the chapel more accessible while carefully navigating all these archaeological complexities.
That's quite an achievement.
It is, ensuring everything was recorded, preserved, and that the discoveries weren't compromised by the building work.
So, as Dr. Seidel apparently said, what we've uncovered is just the beginning. It feels like there's still so much more these remains, these foundations can tell us.
Definitely. There's still a lot of analysis to do.
Yeah. This whole deep dive has really shown how even the most famous historical places can keep yielding these startling new facts. You blend these ancient mysteries with the precision of modern science.
And you get a much richer, much more human picture of the past. Not just the tower's physical history, but the lives of the individuals, those plague victims, maybe nobles, clergy who walked those grounds during some really turbulent times.
It makes you think, doesn't it? About how, every time we build something new, put in new infrastructure, we might accidentally unlock these hidden chapters of our shared past.
Absolutely. What other stories are out there? Forgotten people, lost buildings, maybe just beneath the pavement we walk on every day, waiting for technology and our own curiosity to bring them back into the light.
What prompted the recent excavation at the Tower of London after more than 30 years? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.